In this video, I wanted to show you about sock yarn or any yarn that has a pattern to it and how it crochets up and how it's different than when knitting is done. So I'm going to look at this yarn from Ice Yarns, which is called Super Sock. And you can see its content and everything about it on the label. There is one thing that you have to think about if you're not a knitter, is what is it going to look like whenever you crochet up this pattern. It's not going to look knitted. Some yarns have the knit view right on the label. This one does not, but I do believe on the Ice Yarns website they do have some pictures of some of their sock yarns, how it's worked up knitted, but they don't have it worked up crochet. So it's kind of deceiving if you are not familiar with these types of yarns. So I knitted up a hat out of this yarn, and this is what it looks like. So you can see how it stripes and how it has the little black and white grids. And I really like this yarn. I really like the way the pattern turned out. But I wanted to test it out and see what does it look like when it's crocheted. I made this hat, and I think I've shown it in one of my other videos. So this is kind of a typical crochet hat with the typical band on it, where you just do a single crochet rib stitch. And so because you work the rib stitch for single crochet this way from side to side, you're not going to get the ribbing going this way nor the striping going this way. Your striping is going to be up and down, and that's just the nature of crocheting this type of rib stitch. Now you could do the front post, do a double crochet front post back post rib stitch, and you would get the horizontal stripes similar to the knitting. It looks different because it's crochet, but with this type of ribbing, which is a lot stretchier, it's just going to give you the up and down stripes with big color blocks. And I have not woven in my end. Anyway, so then I started doing some stitches up the hat, and you can see it just looks kind of like a hodgepodge. I mean, yes, there is some striping. You have the yellow stripe, and I think this area looks nice with the yellow stripe with the pink, but it just is kind of a hodgepodge, and my brain doesn't really work this way. I like to have the very even symmetrical patterns. I'm a math person, and with math there's patterns, and I'm just one of those kind of people that I love the visual patterns that make sense and are symmetrical. And this is definitely not symmetrical. It's not even asymmetrical, which I can handle that, but I just think this hat just turned out to be a crazy hodgepodge, and I don't like it. But I'm keeping it because it does give a good example of what yarn like this works up as. Then I thought, okay, well, let's do some smaller stitches because all those double crochets did not work up. So I decided to do some smaller stitches, except on the edge I did the double crochet front post back post ribbing, and then I started doing the moss stitch after that once I got the ribbing done. And the moss stitch is basically you do a single crochet and then you chain one, and then you do a single crochet, and you just keep repeating that. And then you can see when you go up to the next row, you single crochet in that chain one space. So you get kind of a staggered brick-like look to it. This was starting to pattern a little bit better. So you can see right up here on my black and white line, and then the green, it does look a little bit better, and it would have been even greater if this pattern repeat would have continued all the way across. But because crocheting takes more yarn, it didn't quite get to that pattern repeat, because you can see there's a block in between here that didn't reach. But still, it's not bad. And I probably will go ahead and finish this hat because I like the way it's turning out. So you can kind of see, here's a comparison of the knit versus doing a hat with a moss stitch. So not bad. I like this. So I think that if I want to do more hats like this, this is the stitch I'm going to choose, because I'm not a huge fan of just doing straight single crochets, but I really do like the moss stitch. And then one of my subscribers suggested, hey, what about the Tunisian stitch that looks like knit? And so I made up this sample, and of course when you're doing Tunisian and you're trying to do this knit stitch, you can't do it in the round. There are Tunisian stitches where you do them in the round, but for this particular one it just doesn't work. And it's really curling bad, but I think if I kept going on the hat, I could finish the hat and then it would have a nice curled edge. So if we take a look at the Tunisian stitch that looks like knit, it does have a nice pattern to it. So because crochet takes a lot more yarn, there's less likely of a chance that you're going to get that pattern completely going all the way around that hat. So based upon my experience, I think if you're a crocheter, I think this right here is the winner. I'm going to finish this hat, and then I will hopefully have it in a future video when I do some finished objects. So I hope this has helped you learn a little bit about how you can take a yarn that is patterned for knitting and turn it into something that is crocheted and fairly comparable.